Thanks to New York Magazine, we found out that Virgin Galactic had a little deviation when it went flying a month ago. Interesting. Let's talk about it. We're going to get to Virgin Galactic in a minute. But first, let's start with something else that's kind of juicy. It sounds like a script to some kind of crazy drama movie. So NASA took a budget hit and they used that excuse to deviate from the original plan of selecting multiple human landing system vendors for flight demonstrations and chose only one, and that company was SpaceX. That ignited protests from the losers, as these big jobs certainly do, with the most vocal and visible being Elon Musk's nemesis, Jeff Bezos, in Blue Origin. So over a month ago, the GAO dismissed the claims, but with these things, it's never really over until the loser actually gives up. Blue Origin says it learned that NASA reduced the flight readiness review requirements for SpaceX, eliminating for those requirements most of those requirements for the 16 launches planned. Oh, shouldn't that have been spread about everybody? That's what Blue Origin thinks. They say it was a significant cost advantage and schedule advantage and was not offered to any of the other competitors. So they believe NASA should have communicated that with all the offers so that they could have all worked within the funding constraints. Now there's an issue of timing about all that is, and those details will come out, I'm sure. But since the GAO dismissal, Jeff Bezos has also offered to cover an additional $2 billion in development costs so NASA could select at least 2 vendors until funding showed up. Kind of doesn't work that way, but it's a great idea. NASA really did take a hit on the HLS. That's for sure. Congress appropriated just $850 million of the $3.4 billion request for FY21 alone. And this is where it gets interesting. NASA's new administrator, Bill Nelson, is calling on Congress to provide the additional funding within the Infrastructure and Jobs Bill. And that at least that'll get a vote later on this month, and if it's buried in there, just think of the implications. So you have a competition. NASA is within its rights to select one or several. They select one, gets reevaluated under GAO. They make the same conclusion. GAO dismisses the protest, and then heck, just keep complaining. Complain to Congress, complain to the administration. And how does that work? Well, then you seem to get a little traction and get your way, maybe. We'll see if this really all comes to pass. But it seems like a long, slippery slope for the acquisition process. If you can't win the job, just keep complaining for years. And, well, maybe that's the way of the new world. We'll see. Stay tuned. Grounded. Yeah. Virgin Galactic flights have been grounded by the FAA while they investigate a deviation from the flight plan that they filed on the July 11th mission. Now that was the one where all the cameras were present and Sir Richard Branson got to float around in space for a few minutes. It's a little bothersome that the FAA didn't actually initiate the investigation. A New Yorker magazine article exposed the deviation from flight plan and goes on to explain why that matters. Wow, it'd be great if the FAA actually knew that somebody deviated from something. Now, Virgin Galactic disputes the article, and they told how safety is their top priority, and they've been getting great training and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but they didn't dispute some of the facts in the article. They did say that due to unexpected winds, they did change the flight plan. And they stayed within the lateral confines of the boundaries established. But they did not stay within the vertical confines of the protected airspace. And that's where it gets kind of dicey and why the FAA should have known. They actually said it in their statement. And so Richard Branson was the first to go to space like this. And he's the first to have a pilot deviation. And that's a twofer. So Virgin Galactic is hand-flown, so that makes it a little different than what we've been seeing in all the videos from SpaceX and Blue Origin. And this makes, this element of control does make enhanced traffic management when we have to sort of separate and deconflict people above 60,000 feet extremely difficult. The current concept of operations has the entire ecosystem working together in perfect harmony. You know, and when you look at SpaceX videos and you look at Blue Origin videos and nobody's touching anything, they're just monitors and they kind of do their own thing, you'd think that might work. And then you go to Sir Richard Branson's position and maybe that doesn't work so good. That harmony is going to be very hard to achieve if Virgin Galactic doesn't think altitudes are just as important as lateral confines. So, community-based rules, long way to go. But Virgin Galactic isn't alone. Google's now defunct Loon operation, those high-altitude balloons that we're going to do internet over certain spots of the Earth in time of need, would drop to altitudes below flight level 600, and they couldn't help it either. Wow! I really think that my definition of safe is kind of different than these innovators. They are risk takers to the core, and we need them. We need them to do that. What we don't need is a risk taker's view of safety applied to the way that we travel. That is uncool. I think the FAA is going to have a field day with this one, although they really don't regulate much when it comes to space vehicles. But that day is coming, as a reauthorization is coming in 23, and there's other elements going around the space to redefine what the FAA actually does in regulation. This is going to be something to watch. What exactly is UAS traffic management? So most of the known UTM developers start with the idea that UTM is very similar to air traffic management, the way the NASA is designed today to handle airlines and others. Just different rules and tolerances and the way you get information and things like that. But Ascent Technologies is looking at UTM in a completely different way. They are looking at it as a transportation ecosystem for those new vehicles, and that includes not just keeping them apart, strategic deconflicting, knowing where they are, those kinds of things, but the entire logistics system of moving people and goods under that regulatory space. It's basically taking the business and legal parameters and incorporating that in what gets delivered as a service to flyers. And that seems to be working. They are trialing their new UTM system with the UK, and they've agreed with Eve Urban Air Mobility, which is a subsidy of Embraer, making an eVTOL, to partner to delivering UAM solutions in an Asia market, which includes Melbourne, Manila, Singapore, and Tokyo, which are super hot spots for travel, and they are super congested on the ground and very congested in the air, by the way. And so they expect to be able to deliver this kind of ecosystem, a complete ecosystem, in 2026. One thing that they which seems to be a tenet of the UAM community, is stovepiping. Lots of capabilities are being lumped together for synergy, cost, and a better supply chain. Moving people and goods needs land, energy, really good forecasting, as well as sort of those ATM services like air traffic management, strategic deconfliction. But handling the business end of things may be the one key, the skeleton key, to unlock UTM and service provision for UAM in the future. Looking at travel? You can travel around the US all you want, pretty much. And you're looking to travel internationally? Not so much. So is it soccer or football? I don't know. Just like that divide, the world is divided on who gets to travel where, and the US and the European Union are definitely not on the same page for COVID protocols. The EU opened up its border to American tourists back in June, and the US has yet to reciprocate. So, for European visitors, and now the US has been thrown off the list of safe countries to go to due to high COVID rates. Well, it kind of makes sense. So it's just a recommendation that the EU put out to its member states. It'll have to see what, real impact it will have. They have to make their own call, but this is just plain messy. World ATM is scheduled for just less than 2 months away now. And a lot could change in either direction based on spiking of COVID cases and not COVID cases. I know organizers there are super optimistic that it's going to happen, but the State Department currently does have a do not travel advisory for Spain. And so make sure it's a refundable ticket. It's my only advice. Well, speaking of football, what I would consider to be the real football, and I have a genetic defect that I am a Dallas Cowboy fan. Been that way for, wow, a lot of decades now, and you know, there's been good times and bad times and super frustrating times. I like other teams too. I take the Patriots, do the Buccaneers because I'm kind of like a Brady fan. But Cowboy fan or not, Texas Stadium is an awesome place. And one of the best video drone clips I have seen is a flight that starts outside Texas Stadium and flies through the stadium. It is a really cool piece of work. I will put the link to it in the comments, but take a look at it. It is pretty cool use of a drone camera. So how quiet is an eVTOL? In eVTOL, you know, this urban air mobility thing holds tremendous promise of being very quiet flight, and won't disturb communities, and allow transportation to go, particularly air transportation to go where previously hasn't been allowed. But how quiet is it? I do know that my small drones are noisy little buggers, super noisy and annoying, big time annoying. I don't even like flying them. I can't find one that's quiet enough for me, but hopefully somebody's working on it. So Joby Aviation Press has been clear that they were focused on this from the beginning, and they have some really, you know, smart ideas to go into a very quiet acoustic footprint. They use a different blade shape, and they use a lower RPM to make sure that that keeps the noise level down. And their videos would tell you that, wow, it's pretty quiet. But I don't know, do you trust YouTube for your news? Enter NASA. As part of the Advanced Air Mobility National Campaign, they deployed their mobile acoustics facility and have installed more than 40 pressure ground plate microphones at Joby's test flight area at Hunter Liggett Military Base in California. Joby's eVTOL will be the first design to collect data evaluating takeoff noise, hover, and overhead flight over the last couple weeks. So then we will know how quiet is. NASA will use data along with other they will use noise profiles in urban communities to see what kind of noise gets blended in and whether you can tell, and we'll get to see how accurate those YouTube videos are. My fingers crossed, because quiet is important, or this new technology will be a non-starter. Smash that like button, become a subscriber, tell me what you want to hear, tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks to New Yorker magazine, we found out about, that's not right.